Gero here for Umbra Games with a review of Double Dragon 4, available digitally on PlayStation 4, Windows, and Switch, and played on a limited run game's physical copy released exclusively for PS4 for the review. Double Dragon 4 was developed by Arc System Works after having acquired the original studio of Technos Japan back in 2015. It is a bit interesting to me they went straight up with 4 in the title for this because we did get a Super Double Dragon, which I always kind of assumed was 4, and a Double Dragon 5, the Shadow Falls, both of which were in the Super Nintendo era. Super Double Dragon was developed by Technos Japan, but 5 was actually done by an American studio called Telegames. Oh yeah, let's not forget Double Dragon Neon either, developed by WayForward and released in 2012 digitally for PlayStation Network on PlayStation 3 and Xbox Live on 360. The Double Dragon series is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, technically 2.5D because you can move toward and away from the screen freely. Each game has featured martial artist brothers Billy and Jimmy fighting against a giant gang. Double Dragon 4 sort of continues a plotline from 2, bringing back the Black Warriors that have teamed up with a new gang called the Renegades. Now, I've played the NES version of the first Double Dragon more than any other game in the series, as it was one of the first dozen NES games I actually owned as a kid so long ago, and I'll admit it's been years since I've played another Double Dragon. But the parallels between this game and what's burned into my mind from the first NES one are pretty significant. You have a punch and a kick, and in this game, instead of pressing both together to make your character jump, it's actually assigned a button. There are 3, quote, special moves that can be done by controller input varieties, and fortunately you can also go into the options and map these moves to buttons on the controller. These include things like a backwards elbow and a headbutt. You can press kick again while in the air to do a jump kick, and there's also a spin kick that will fire off somewhat inconsistently. You want to get used to using these often because a lot of times may be the only way out in some encounters. Because enemies will pummel you. And the old Double Dragon used to sort of be able to move up into the background on the enemy and get in some hits. They might sometimes beat you to the punch, but it was a pretty sound strategy. It sure doesn't feel like it here. Enemies will beat you down quite often if you try that. There is an invincible get-up move that will take out anybody in your path, but even then sometimes they wait perfectly spaced and hit you when you come down from that, or from a different angle, when your invincibility frames are done. There's a bottom row closest to the screen that enemies generally won't go all the way down to, so you can be safe there, but again, getting that up approach to get the jump on them rarely works, as they stand there waiting for you to come back onto their plane. See, while all these things will work, this is not how you want to play a beat-em-up. Now, some of the worst parts I always remember in Double Dragon games were the platforming pieces, pressing both buttons to jump and hoping your awkward, uncontrollable arc will take you where you want to land. Add some danger and timing into the jumps, and in this case we have disappearing platforms and rotating platforms that'll throw you backwards if you're hit while they're still spinning. Now the game can be played in 2-player co-op, which is actually how I beat it with a friend after 5 or 6 attempts. You do share continues. The levels are fairly short, but there are 12 of them, and as I just looked up that fact to confirm that number, I saw forum posts saying you could do a level select to any mission you had completed before. That's just fantastic. That may have saved a little frustration as we played until we could do it from start to finish. As you complete stages, you unlock characters for the 2-player duel mode as well, where you can play as the various notable enemies in one-on-one matches against a friend. We didn't really mess around here, but I do remember playing quite a bit of versus mode as kids, and you do get to use the various moves of the enemies as you play here. A Bobo can even jump now. For the 8-bit style they're trying to replicate, the environments are pretty solid, and definitely varied. The enemies are pretty much all the same ones from the NES era Double Dragon, and I was actually even able to name them all from memory. There really isn't too much upgrading done at all to their sprites even. The remixes of the series' classic music are fantastic, and you can even switch the background music to be the original chiptune style. Overall, Double Dragon 4 tries to recreate nostalgia, but does so with both the good and the bad. The good being the art style and music and 2-player local co-op, and just that general feeling if you played old school Double Dragon back in the day. With the bad, the combat system is just rudimentary, with no character progression. You're not really advancing and maybe even taking a step backwards in its overall refinement. It feels stiff. There's some cheap AI, some annoying platform sections, and just repeating the same moves over and over or hiding in the lower spot to survive got old. Rated as a 2D beat-em-up, Double Dragon 4 hits a 29 out of 100 on a true 0 to 100 scale, or 50 as average. This is Gero for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching.